Part 117. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1161. The infinite light made him close his eyes unconsciously, but the light seemed to penetrate everything. Even with his eyes closed, he could feel that it was an infinite light. The torrent that enveloped him was flowing into the infinite light. The mighty light seemed to penetrate everything and melt everything. Lin Yi immediately put himself in a state of boundless true destiny and constant true destiny. But something happened that frightened him. The power of true destiny was being consumed at an unimaginable speed. In just a few minutes, his spiritual waves were completely consumed. At this time, the Xuanhuan had been transformed into a spiritual state by him in advance, hidden in the true destiny, without revealing anything. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. He felt that his body disappeared at this moment, disappearing in the infinite light. Only the pure true destiny was left, exposed to the infinite light, and he did not feel any other threats. It seems that only the true destiny can exist in this light. Puff. A feeling of penetrating a mysterious barrier in the dark. Lin Yi felt that his true destiny, wrapped in his will and the Xuanhuan, came to an unknown place. The light has completely disappeared, and a feeling in the dark, he has the touch of his body again. He slowly opened his eyes, and this is a shabby room. There is only a bed, a wardrobe, a wooden table, and a TV on the wooden table. Such a familiar environment reminded him of memories from a long time ago. How is it possible? This is Blue Star. Is it behind the true gate, my previous world? But why is this so? He can feel that his true destiny still exists in his body, but other than that, he has no power in his body. Lingbo's power has been restored, and the light of the true destiny is flashing in his eyes. He looked left and right and found an amazing thing. Under his true destiny, there is no energy in the air. The true destiny can let him see countless particles, which are quietly floating in the air. These particles are clearly dust, molecules, and other microorganisms in the air. He continued to operate the power of the true destiny solution, directly consuming the spiritual wave to 90%. Everything in the world in front of him turned into extremely tiny particles in an instant. Everything in the world is made up of these basic particles. Apart from this, he did not find anything similar to spiritual energy or other energy. This means that there is no supernatural power in this world at all. But my true destiny still exists. Is Blue Star like the former absolute spirit world? Lin Yi's heart was full of deep doubts. He felt that he had really returned to Blue Star. At this time, he stood up from the bed and stood in front of a mirror on the table. He saw a familiar face, which was his past face, ordinary and inconspicuous. What is going on? The existence of true destiny means that I am definitely not dreaming. He picked up the mobile phone next to him and looked at the time, July 23, 2021. Everything that happened was just one night. He started to surf the internet through his mobile phone and searched for various different information. All the information fed back from his mobile phone showed him that this was indeed Blue Star. Just then, he suddenly saw a news report pop up on his mobile phone. The latest news from our station, someone claimed to have seen a human skin grandmother. The place where it appeared was outside a bungalow at number 78 Xuanhuan Street, Furong City. Our reporter went to Xuanhuan Street for an interview, and the local people said that no one had seen the so-called human skin grandmother. Recently, information related to the human skin grandmother has been spreading, causing fear in many people. There are even rumors that the human skin grandmother is a terrifying monster. Once you see the face of this human skin grandmother, you will be skinned and die on the spot. But after the hard work of reporters, this is just nonsense. There is no so-called human skin grandmother. Please don't be affected by this weird talk. At this time, Lin Yi looked at the content of the news, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Human skin grandmother. Can urban legends be on the news? His face was full of question marks. He had never encountered such a thing in the past Blue Star, nor had he seen such behavior reported by the official. At this moment, his face suddenly changed. Number 78 Xuanhuan Street, it seems to be outside the bungalow where I live. The original Lin Yi was just a white-collar worker with a monthly salary of 4,000 yuan. Living in the urban village of Furong City, he rented a small room for 500 yuan per month, surrounded by migrant workers like him. Most of the houses in the urban village are bungalows, either 2-story or 1-story, and he lives on the second floor. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on his door. Lin Yi frowned in confusion. Who is it? The voice was slightly impatient. I am the landlord, open the door quickly, I have something to talk to you about. Lin Yi frowned when he heard it, walked over a few steps, and opened the door. The pupils shrank, and he was terrified. An old woman stood in front of him. The old woman's skin was wrinkled and she looked at least 90 years old. The most terrifying thing was that her 10 fingers were all extended with sharp nails. She was wearing layers of clothes that seemed to be made of skin. She was bleeding and could even see blood dripping on the ground. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes had already met the weird old woman. Then, something even more terrifying happened. He found that he couldn't move. The old woman was walking towards him with a weird smile. That was definitely not a human smile. It was twisted and hideous, and even her eyes were pitch black. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Lin Yi. Lin Yi's mind moved, and the power of boundless true destiny and perseverance covered his whole body. All the power that bound him disappeared in an instant. He was able to move again, and dodged the claws of the old woman in front of him. Weird things were still happening. He found that his spiritual waves were rapidly consuming, which was an abnormal phenomenon. It was obviously just some kind of negative phenomenon. Once the true destiny was opened, it should be completely eliminated. But now, although the true destiny can help him get out of this negative state, the consumption is constant. This is very strange, or incredible. Is this the human skin grandmother? At this time, the human skin grandmother still maintained a strange and sinister smile, approaching him quickly, walking very fast, and the whole movement method looked as stiff as a machine. Facing this strange thing, Lin Yi didn't want to get close at all. He rushed towards the window in a flash. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1162. Under the protection of the boundless true destiny, Lin Yi directly penetrated the wall and stood on the ground in free fall. He rented a 2-story bungalow, and there was a small courtyard in front of the family's house. After rushing out of the window, he just landed in the small courtyard. It was past 8 o'clock in the evening, and there were not many people in the village in the city. Everyone was resting at home. Living here was very tired every day, and no one would waste time. No one noticed his behavior. After landing, Lin Yi only held a mobile phone in his hand, and without looking back, he went directly through the courtyard wall and came to the alley outside the village in the city. He was very fast, and with the blessing of the boundless true destiny, he quickly moved away from here. But he found a problem. The consumption of spiritual waves was very amazing. There was an invisible force that was always affecting him and increasing the consumption of true destiny. In just a few seconds, he had consumed 1/20th of his spiritual waves. Just now, he used the true destiny solution and consumed 90% of his spiritual waves. In other words, in just a dozen seconds, he consumed 5% of his spiritual waves again. At this time, his remaining spiritual wave was less than 5%. He had to turn off the effect of the true destiny and took steps to leave along the alley. But at the moment when he turned off the true destiny, another unknown force appeared, and his body was completely stiff again, unable to move. His face changed drastically, What is going on? Is it possible that the power of this so-called human skin grandma can't be eliminated at all? At this time, his eyes saw the distance of the alley. The human skin grandma appeared there, approaching him quickly with a strange smile on her face. The walking movement was very mechanical, like a robot, and her face flashed with a twisted and strange smile, which made Lin Yi sweat all over. I don't know how long it has been since I have experienced such a dangerous situation. What should I do? I won't be so unlucky and die just after returning. There were countless questions flashing in his mind, and he saw his mobile phone in the corner of his eye. Although he was stiff at this time, his right hand was slightly raised. Originally, he wanted to sprint, and his arm was naturally raised. But his body suddenly froze and maintained a weird posture. At this time, he saw the content on the phone. At some point, another inexplicable news was pushed. According to the information from the urban legend, once you see the human skin woman, you will definitely be skinned and die. Only if you never look at the human skin woman's face will you not be attacked. As long as you have seen the human skin woman's face, it will be useless even if you close your eyes. Please pay attention to the general public. This kind of urban legend has been getting more and more intense recently. It has greatly affected the stability of the city. Please do not believe these urban legends. Looking at the information on the phone, Lin Yi always felt inexplicable. How could the authorities push such inexplicable news and send it directly to the phone? This is too strange. But there is really a useful one in it. As long as you see the face of this human skin woman, you will definitely die. That is to say, no matter how I struggle, I will die. But what if I die once? Thinking of this, he already knew what to do in his heart. Just thinking about being skinned, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. The next moment, the human skin woman had rushed in front of him. A pair of dark eyes were looking at him, staring at him closely. Lin Yi looked at these eyes, and his scalp tingled. But the next moment, he felt an endless pain attacking him. The human skin grandmother stretched out her sharp claws and grabbed his head in an instant, and then a chill instantly enveloped his whole body. The next moment, endless tearing pain rose from his whole body. Then, Lin Yi felt that all the flesh on his body was torn out in an instant. The human skin grandmother held a fresh human skin in her hand, and blood was still dripping on it. It was his skin, and the severe pain attacked him all the time. The blood all over his body flowed and spurted out crazily, and his body quickly fell into shock in the severe pain. The severe pain hit the cerebral cortex, and he smelled the smell of death, so clearly. Then, he fell into darkness and knew nothing. The human skin grandmother in front of him also disappeared like a ghost after he lost his life. At the same time, the strange news on his mobile phone also disappeared. Then, only some bloody corpses still wearing clothes were left. The next moment, something strange happened. The dead corpse suddenly gave off a faint green light. This light could not be seen by anyone. The wounds on the corpse were all healed, and the skin grew back. Then, the dead Lin Yi woke up. It was so dangerous. It was almost over. He could feel that the inexplicable power that was originally wrapped around him had completely disappeared. Only 1% of his spiritual wave was left. In order to resurrect, he consumed 4% of his spiritual wave. This resurrection only restored the blood and skin, which consumed 4%. If it was a more serious death, the body no longer existed, how much spiritual wave would be consumed? This matter must be investigated. In any case in the future, you must have enough spiritual waves to meet the conditions for resurrection. An inexplicable sense of urgency rose in his heart, and Blue Star seemed a little unusual. He stood up from the ground, looking at his blood and the pain of being skinned just now, his face became more gloomy. It's terrible to have no power. Fortunately, I still have my true life. The most urgent thing is to verify whether I can have power on Blue Star. Thinking of this, he walked towards his home. Now his body was covered with blood, and it was not suitable to hang around outside. If someone saw him and took him to the police station, he would have a hard time explaining himself. 10 minutes later, he used the last remaining spiritual wave and returned to the room without alarming anyone with the help of his true life. The first thing he did when he returned to the room was to change his clothes and wipe off the blood on his body. As for the remaining blood in the alley outside, he couldn't solve it. He slowly sat cross-legged on the bed and quickly closed the door. This time, no matter who knocked on the door, he would not open it. Sitting cross-legged, his spirit drifted into his heart. In the mind, the 6 true destinies are constantly running, and a trace of spiritual waves are slowly recovering. In the mind, the Xuanhuan, which has turned into a spiritual state, floats here quietly and motionlessly. At this time, the Xuanhuan is very strange, in an inexplicable state of silence. Lin Yi's mind feels the changes in the Xuanhuan. In his feeling, the Xuanhuan fell into silence, and all the weird essences were sleeping, as if inertia had occurred. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1163. In the Wish Shrine, all the beings who had reached a contract with him, their last rays of will, also fell into eternal sleep. The same goes for Brandy, Sakuramiya Shirley, and others. There seems to be an inexplicable force that makes all forces without real life fall into a deep sleep. He was the only one in the whole house who could still remain free and sober. Shaking his head slightly, he could only quietly maintain his true fate and restore himself to his peak condition as soon as possible. He discovered that using true life on this blue star would consume a huge amount of energy. At this time, in the alley where Lin Yi died just now, a small group of people in uniform appeared. These people are mysterious and unpredictable. Each of them wears a mask, and their uniforms are all black. They are also fully armed and filled with various weapons. There are not many people in this team, there are 8 in total. The leader is a woman, and the black uniform cannot hide her proud figure. They came to the ground where blood gathered, and they all looked at the ground with frowns. A team member next to him said, "Captain, there is no body found here. The human skin mother-in-law will not be interested in the body." The woman wearing a mask said in a cold and low voice, "Collect blood samples and go back to analyze the DNA comparison data to find out who the deceased is." "Yes." As he spoke, one of the team members immediately squatted down and took out a test tube from his tactical backpack. After quickly collecting a blood sample, the test tube was carefully returned to its place. The team leader took out the walkie-talkie and said, "The cleanup team is coming in, other teams are cooperating." After finishing speaking, the captain took off his mask, revealing a woman with hair in a bun. Her face was very delicate, her brows were also very cold, and a trace of deep doubt flashed in her eyes. "What's going on? Has this human skin mother-in-law's behavioral rules changed?" Puzzled, the team quickly retreated and disappeared here. Then a group of people in white uniforms came here and quickly cleaned the ground. Centered on this blood-stained area, several nearby alleys were blocked by the police and no one could enter. After 30 minutes, everyone quickly evacuated without leaving any traces. Although some people in the urban village noticed the changes here, they didn't know what happened. In the blink of an eye, the second day came and Lin Yi woke up from bed. A full night passed before he fully recovered the spiritual waves he had consumed. This recovery speed is too slow, but the consumption of spiritual waves is too fast. You have to be more careful in the future. You need to get back to living a cautious life and make money. Thinking of this, he shook his head slightly and looked at the time. It was already 7 o'clock in the morning. A familiar feeling came over me, go to work. In the end he shook his head. There is no need for him to work now, even though he has lost all his strength. The reborn body has no power whatsoever, not even the eternal qualities it once possessed. They were all placed in the everything room, completely falling into a deep sleep, unable to be awakened by him or controlled by him. This meant that his process of deducing the seventh true destiny was interrupted. And now he doesn't know how to solve this problem. After thinking for a while, he walked to his desk and opened the drawer, which contained some coins. He randomly took out a $1 coin and placed it on the table. He raised his hand and tapped the coin. The power of the true source of life was activated, and in an instant, the entire coin began to change. Transform from ordinary coins to golden color. Almost 1/10 of his spiritual wave was consumed, and the coin was converted into pure gold. With the light of his true destiny shining in his eyes, he could clearly see the essence of the coin. All the metal atoms that made up the original coin were turned into gold atoms. This is a real gold coin with no trace of color and is 100% pure. There is number 100% pure gold in this world, and this structure is almost impossible to exist. This gold coin should be worth a lot of money. This coin weighs about 10 grams and is worth at least 3 or 4,000. Compared to 1 month's salary of mine. Next, he picked 3 more coins and turned them into gold coins. All in all, about half of the spiritual waves were consumed. After pocketing these 4 gold coins, Lin Yi left his home. He did not plan to live here for a long time, and he did not plan to come back again. He had to stay away from here. Soon he found a gold shop and walked in. There was only one male boss inside, sitting behind a workbench and doing something busy. Lin Yi walked in and immediately attracted the boss's attention. The boss is a middle-aged man about 40 years old, with oily hair and a very calm appearance. He stood up from his position with a smile, looked at Lin Yi and said, "Sir, do you want to buy something?" Lin Yi looked at him and took out 4 1 yuan gold coins from his pocket. Put it on his desk. "I want to sell this gold. It's all 99% pure gold." When the middle-aged man heard this, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He lowered his head and looked at the 4 gold coins, then put them on the scale next to them and weighed them. Then he looked at Lin Yi. "Can I burn it with fire?" "No problem, you can burn it as you like." The boss picked up a small flamethrower and quickly aimed it at the gold coin and started spraying. The high-temperature flame almost turned blue, and the gold coin quickly turned red under the flame. After burning for about 10 seconds, the boss turned off the flame, and the gold coin began to turn back to gold at the speed of the naked eye. Looking at this scene, the boss nodded with satisfaction. "It is indeed pure gold, but I want to cut it all open, melt it, and then weigh it. Can you accept it?" Lin Yi nodded indifferently, "Whatever." The boss quickly cut the gold coin open, and then melted it with professional tools, and finally turned it into a small piece of gold bar. "Put it on the electronic scale and weigh it." A total of 50 g, heavier than Lin Yi thought. The boss showed a satisfied smile on his face, looked up at Lin Yi and said, "The current market price is 330 yuan per gram, and the total here is 16,500 yuan. Are there any problems?" Lin Yi shook his head. "This is the price. Cash or e-wallet?" "E-wallet." He opened his mobile phone and showed the QR code. After paying, the boss looked at Lin Yi with some curiosity. "I'm curious about where you got these gold coins. They are the same as 1 yuan coins. This technology is not ordinary." Lin Yi looked at the boss and smiled faintly. "I can't tell you this. But the source of the things is normal, you can rest assured about this. The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1164. After saying that, Lin Yi turned around and left the gold shop, and began to walk on the street, looking around with a strange look. The weather was very hot, and the air was filled with heat everywhere. There were not many people on the street, and almost no one was willing to appear outside except for those who had to work. The street fell into his eyes, giving him a feeling that was both strange and familiar. I always feel that I have been away for a long time. Just then, his phone suddenly rang. He looked down and saw 3 words on it, Pug. A familiar person emerged in his mind. He worked in a company that specialized in selling air purifiers. His job was to handle various orders, shipping, and other clerical work in the company. The monthly salary was only about 4,000 yuan, with 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. Basically he would not starve to death, but he would not live a good job. As for wanting to buy a house, it was basically a dream. Pug was his immediate superior, the manager of the cargo department, who often made trouble for him. The moment the call was connected, a rough voice inside cursed. "Lin Yi, why didn't you come to work today? Do you want to be absent from work? Believe it or not, I will deduct 3 days' salary from you." Listening to the violent voice of the manager he labeled as a pug, Lin Yi's face was indifferent. "I won't go to work from today. Don't call me if you have nothing to do." He hung up the phone directly after saying that. On the other side of the phone was an office. The pug general manager looked at the hung-up phone with a furious face. "Damn guy, how dare he, doesn't he want to do it?" But the next moment he suddenly stopped, the other party really didn't want to do it. His heart was filled with evil fire, but there was nowhere to vent. The call from the pug general manager interrupted Lin Yi's sightseeing. He looked around and walked into a hotel. He came to the front desk and looked at the hotel receptionist and said, "Book for 10 days first." The receptionist heard the words and immediately began to check him in enthusiastically. A few minutes later, Lin Yi came to the top floor of the hotel. This is a chain hotel, and his room is on the top floor. This hotel is about 20 stories high, and the king-size bedroom on the top floor has a floor-to-ceiling window, from which you can see the bustling scene outside. Furong City is located inland, surrounded by mountains on all sides, and belongs to the basin area. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, and from where he is, he can even see the mountains in the distance under the sunlight, and the top of the mountain is white. In the room, Lin Yi sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. Looking at the mountains in the distance, looking down at the magnificent city below, he fell into a trace of contemplation. The situation is a bit complicated now. I have to face several situations. First, the consumption of spiritual waves on Blue Star is very huge. My true destiny can deal with a certain degree of danger, but it cannot last long, so I have to stay away from danger before finding a way to increase the upper limit of spiritual waves. Second, living on Blue Star requires money, which can be well solved by relying on the root of true destiny. Third, the Wanchaiwu and the eternal nature are completely dormant. I can't wake them up. There is no way to make them change from the spiritual state to the material state again. I need to find a solution. Fourth, Blue Star seems to be different from the Blue Star I am familiar with. There is an inexplicable phenomenon such as the human skin grandmother in this world, and even the true destiny cannot completely resist it. I need to be vigilant about this strange phenomenon and try to find the reason. Fifth, Blue Star is a place without any energy, and the power of any energy system cannot be used. Then, can the power system of the Doomsday world be used on this Blue Star? You can try to summarize, and remaster a supernatural power system that can be used on Blue Star in addition to the true destiny power system. After careful analysis, Lin Yi already has some ideas about what he is going to do now. The most important thing is to stay away from danger, explore strength, and after being prepared, try to understand the world again. In the afternoon, Lin Yi went to a nearby shopping mall to buy some clothes. The nearby shopping mall is a place called Renren Shopping Mall. There are many people here even during the day. Especially some uncles and aunts, they all walk here to enjoy the air conditioning. Lin Yi quickly came to the men's clothing area, picked and chose, and finally chose about 4 or 5 sets of summer clothes, and a few pairs of shoes. Carrying large and small bags, he came to the front desk to check out. Just as he finished checking out and left from another exit of the mall, suddenly, a group of fully armed mysterious people rushed out from all around the exit and rushed directly towards him. Lin Yi saw the scene and felt awe in his heart, but he did not choose to hide. Instead, he let the other party catch him and then put on handcuffs. These people didn't say a word and directly pulled Lin Yi into a black van. 8 black vans had been parked outside the exit at some point, and there were no photos or signs on them. Lin Yi was in the van, carefully observing the surroundings and these people. They were all wearing black combat uniforms and hoods, looking like robbers. Lin Yi pretended to be innocent and confused, as if he had no idea what was going on. "Who are you? Why are you arresting me? I'm just an ordinary citizen." Lin Yi asked 3 questions in a row, but the mysterious people who caught him didn't say a word. They just looked at him quietly. There were 2 people holding guns opposite him, pointing them at him. It seemed that if he dared to make any move, he would be shot into a sieve. Seeing that no one spoke, Lin Yi stopped asking and just waited quietly. The glass windows in the car were all covered with black curtains, and he couldn't see outside at all. The cab and the rear car were also separated by curtains. Lin Yi only knew that the car was running, but he didn't know where it would go. However, although he no longer had all kinds of powers, his spiritual destiny still existed. The information of memory has never disappeared. Even with the information from his senses, hearing, and eyes, he can simulate the direction and distance of the car in his mind. This is the only supernatural ability he has mastered so far. You can imagine that the memory palace in the TV series Sherlock Holmes is not much different from his current thinking ability. The journey was very fast, and an hour later, he could judge that he had left Furong City. Since we are here, we should make the best of it. Lin Yi waited quietly. He felt that the person who suddenly appeared this time might allow him to get in touch with some truth of this world. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1165. The van was moving rapidly downwards, as if it had entered some kind of underground tunnel. After another 10 minutes, the van finally stopped slowly. The door was opened, and the soldiers in the car quickly carried him down. Lin Yi looked around. This was a basement with many vehicles parked, but the lights were bright, and there was a passage in front. He was surrounded by fully armed personnel, and all the guns were pointed at him. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Lin Yi was also lifted up when he got off the car. Under the escort of 2 people next to him, he entered the passage in front and was soon taken into an empty room. There was only a square table and 2 chairs in this room. The canopy on all 4 sides was pure white, and the lights were also white. Lin Yi was pressed on a chair, and 2 fully armed soldiers were standing behind him, with their guns pointed at him. About a few minutes later, footsteps were heard outside the door. Click. The door opened and a woman walked in. The woman was wearing a black uniform, black trousers, a black top, and a pair of black flat shoes. There was no color on her body. She had a single ponytail and sat opposite Lin Yi with a calm face. She opened a document in her hand, looked at him and said solemnly, "Lin Yi, 25 years old, graduated from Furong University of Science and Technology, with a bachelor's degree, has been an orphan since childhood, and grew up in the 3rd welfare home of Furong City. Because of my excellent academic performance, I got a scholarship, and at the same time I worked part-time and graduated from university successfully. After graduation, I entered an air purifier company in the city, with a monthly salary of 4,000, 5 insurances and 1 fund. No girlfriend." After saying that, the woman looked up at Lin Yi. "Do you have anything to explain?" Lin Yi looked at her, his face slightly blank. I have nothing to explain, your investigation is correct. The woman's calm face showed a trace of indifference when she heard this. No, our investigation is only superficial. Tell me, what's the matter with the human skin grandma? Why didn't you die? Lin Yi's heart moved when he heard this, but he still pretended to be stupid. Human-skinned woman? What is that? What are you talking about? The woman heard Lin Yi's answer and smiled faintly. You don't have to hide it. We went to the place where the human-skinned woman appeared last night. We found a pool of blood there. According to the amount of blood loss, it is almost half of the human body's blood. Anyone who bleeds so much will die. But we didn't find the body at the scene. After checking the blood sample, we found you. When we checked the data, we found that you checked into a hotel this morning. This is incredible. According to our records, all the lives that have officially come into contact with the human-skinned woman have died, without exception. So please tell the truth, what happened last night? Why can you survive the hunting of the human-skinned woman? This is definitely not something that ordinary people can do. Looking at the mysterious woman in front of him, analyzing her information, revealing some information he didn't know, he was thinking in his heart. However, Lin Yi still said with a blank face, what human skin grandma, I really don't know what you are talking about. I am just an ordinary person, I want to hire a lawyer, you can't treat me like this. The mysterious woman frowned when she saw Lin Yi's blank face. Does he really know nothing, but the blood is definitely his, real evidence, it won't be faked. The woman's eyes showed a trace of thought, and suddenly, an inexplicable wave spread over his body. This wave quickly enveloped Lin Yi. Tell me, what happened last night? The moment this wave enveloped Lin Yi, he already knew what it was. True destiny. This person actually has the power of true destiny, how is it possible? Thinking of this, he instantly used the true destiny perseverance. The opponent's power can control the mind and will, which is 100% complete control. After launching the true destiny perseverance, he quickly became immune to the opponent's power. With a blank face, I went home to sleep after work last night. I slept until this morning. The beautiful woman with a single ponytail frowned. Under my power, he said the same thing. It seems that he really doesn't know. Damn, what happened last night? This person must have some degree of connection. Thinking of this, she retracted her power, and a trace of fatigue appeared on her face. It is not so easy to manipulate a person's mind. There will be huge consumption, which makes her feel very tired, mentally exhausted. The woman's name is Zhao Hengxia, a mysterious person who can manipulate the mind. She is also one of the important managers of this independent organization, specializing in dealing with unknown cases. At this time, Lin Yi felt that the power of the true destiny was slowly taken back by the other party, and the light of the true destiny flashed slightly in his eyes. The next moment, the woman in front of him was in front of him, and all the structures of the other party could not escape his observation. Then, he saw the deepest part of the woman's mind, where there was an inexplicable point. In the depth of the dot, a true destiny was flickering. This is a person with a true destiny, but in Lin Yi's eyes, he can also see it. This person's body is just an ordinary flesh and blood body, and the other party's cognition is only at the level of ordinary humans. He can clearly see that the other party is a real native human. It is definitely not an old monster who has taken over and reborn. Then why does she have a true destiny? The true destiny can only be condensed by oneself. Even I also practice the Yiling Jing dot. Blue star is so strange. There should be something I don't know. I entered the gate of truth first. Those guys who survived by chance will definitely come in after mastering the existence of the true destiny. Maybe I want to find them. By observing them, I can find something. At this time, Zhao Hongxia in front of Lin Yi stood up from her position and turned to leave the room. Soon came to a unique room nearby, where a total of 3 people appeared. A middle-aged man with a big belly, seemed to be an official. One was a middle-aged man in his 50s wearing a white coat, who looked very strong, like a big-name researcher. The other was a uniformed officer who looked about 40 years old and very majestic. The 3 of them looked at Zhao Hongxia, and the big-name man said, "Captain Zhao, how is the interrogation going? Does that person have a major problem?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1166. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchai View I created as soon as possible. Zhao Hongxia glanced at the pot-bellied man, shook her head solemnly and said, "Director Zhang, this matter is very strange. With my power, it's impossible for him to hide the truth, but the results show that he really doesn't know anything. The strange thing is that the human skin mother-in-law appeared near his house, and the blood stains left recently belonged to him, but he himself was not harmed in any way. So I can't tell what happened last night. There must be some puzzle pieces that we don't know about yet to be found." The uniformed officer on the side frowned and said, "I have committed murders before, but for those who are involved in unknown phenomena, direct elimination is the best way. Avoid disaster caused by unknown circumstances." Hearing this, Zhao Hongxia frowned and said, "Colonel Iron, anything related to unknown events is not so simple and can be solved roughly. Don't forget what was recorded in file No. 348. It was because of reckless actions that the entire city disappeared and was even erased from the memory of almost everyone. Without understanding the rationale for unknown events, any wrong action may lead to disaster." At this time, the man in the white coat sitting in the middle said slowly, "Then what do you think about this matter?" Zhao Hongxia turned her head and said, "Director Bai, judge based on the current information. Let him go back first, and then we'll send someone to monitor him. We can still pay for it with some ordinary manpower and material resources. If there is something really wrong with this guy, he will be exposed sooner or later. As long as we collect enough information to make inferences, we can complete the logical chain. Then cut off this logical loop and solve the unknown phenomenon. Violence cannot solve unknown phenomena. If we cannot find the causal chain, we will never be able to solve them. This is an iron law recorded in countless cases and historical records from ancient times to the present. No one has ever broken it. Even we, the God-given ones, cannot use pure violence to destroy them." After hearing Zhao Hongxia's words, everyone couldn't help but fell silent. As Zhao Hongxia said, they understand the horror of unknown phenomena better than anyone else. They can only suppress it at most, but if they want to completely lift it, they must start through a logical chain. In this case, I'd better leave the matter to you. Zhao Hongxia nodded, "Okay." After saying that, Zhao Hongxia turned around and left. In the room, Director Zhang and Colonel Tai looked at Director Bai, and heard Colonel Tai say, "Director Bai, the probability of unknown events around the world is increasing recently. This is not a good thing. There are also some dangerous God-given beings who continue to destroy peace. We, the Anomaly Management Bureau, are under pressure from all over the world. We must find ways to resolve these crises as quickly as possible. Otherwise, if this continues, I have a bad feeling that a huge disaster might break out. Every time a disaster breaks out in human history, it will lead to the death of a large number of people. The Black Death in the Middle Ages. The Spanish flu pandemic of the 1990s. It's just superficial information that appears to cover up the truth. It's basically an unknown event. We must be more severe and accurately destroy those possible potential threats." Director Bai lowered his head and glanced at Chief Iron. "I know, you think that with today's advanced technology, the latest research on new aurora or magnetic field weapons may have an effect on these mysterious and unknown phenomena. But you should also be aware of the risks involved. Man-made interference in unknown phenomena may cause the entire unknown phenomenon to expand if the intervention is not in place. It has happened several times in ancient times that human intervention led to disasters and even the destruction of a civilization. The incident in Pompeii, the outside world only knows that it was caused by a volcanic eruption. But no one knows that it is an eruption caused by an unknown product under the volcano, the demonic dragon. It's because there were greedy dragon slayers who wanted to kill the dragon and seize the treasure, which eventually caused the demonic dragon to mutate and cause the volcano to explode. The iron law of the logical chain is the conclusion reached after countless people sacrificed their lives. So there's no need to say more. At least within our country, breaking the iron law is never allowed. Chief Tai's face turned green and red when he heard Supervisor Bai's painting. But in the end he didn't say anything because the matter was too dangerous. Although weapons researchers swear by it, no one is 100% sure. Director Zhang on the side thought for a while and said, such huge disasters are usually caused by large-scale unknown phenomena or existences. If we only deal with the human skin granny, this kind of unknown existence of a single body type, we might as well give it a try. Director Bai glanced at Director Zhang, even if we try, we can't do it here. This is an iron law and no one can break it. The fact that we have developed to this point was paved with countless blood, and no one can destroy it. Otherwise, don't blame me for being unkind, Director Bai said with a cold face and no emotion at all. Director Bai is the director of the unknown events. In the system of the Abnormal Investigation Bureau, he is the highest person in charge of a city. Even in the entire Investigation Bureau, he is one of the most important members and can propose his own proposals at the annual meeting. Director Zhang and Colonel Tai disappeared slowly and helplessly. It turned out that they used holographic images. Director Bai looked at the two people who disappeared and shook his head slightly. It's been a short time. They are really restless. Do you really think that when technology develops to a certain level, you can deal with this unknown phenomenon? This unknown phenomenon cannot be speculated from a human perspective. It is not something that can be eliminated by physical ability. That is beyond human understanding. Only God-given people have a certain probability of eliminating unknown phenomena. I hope they don't do stupid things, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Recently, the surge in shootings in the Lighthouse country was caused by the Lighthouse country's branch trying to physically interfere with unknown events. This kind of infectious unknown event is the most difficult to solve. When the time comes, it depends on how you report to the parliament at the end of the year. Thinking of this, Director Bai showed a trace of disdain on his face. These people always want to overthrow and break the achievements accumulated by countless humans over thousands of years, and solve them simply. If it were really that easy to eliminate unknown phenomena, our ancient ancestors would have done it long ago. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1167. The latest chapter of the Wanchai I Created is updated the fastest. Manager Bai shook his head slightly, and a trace of solemnity rose in his heart. Fortunately, the human skin grandmother incident this time was a single unknown incident, otherwise I don't know what kind of changes will happen. At this time, Lin Yi was still locked in a separate room, and no one paid attention to him. He quietly opened the light of the True Destiny solution and began to observe the situation outside the room. This is an underground base, about 20 meters underground, with a considerable number of people working here. There are at least thousands of people, including more than 500 combatants. Each of them is fully armed with weapons, absolutely elite fighters. Seeing the situation outside, he frowned again. How could such a violent organization exist in the country? Unless it is allowed. Thinking of this, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes, Looking at their appearance, it seems that they are specifically responsible for investigating the human skin grandmother. What kind of existence is the human skin grandmother? Last time, I was unlucky. My spiritual wave consumed 90%, and I didn't have the opportunity to observe it in detail, so it took the lead. Next time, if there is another chance, I must observe its existence carefully. Just as Lin Yi was thinking and observing, the door was opened again. Two strong fighters walked in. One on the left and one on the right held Lin Yi, and at the same time put a blindfold on him, and dragged him out in the air. He got on a black van again and was quickly sent out of this mysterious base. An hour later, he was thrown out of the van. When he took off the blindfold, he saw the back of a black van quickly going away. Seeing this scene, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. It's really interesting. Lansing is really different from what I thought, and it seems to hide many secrets. He shook his head slightly, turned around and walked onto the street, and stopped a taxi. He told the driver the address and went all the way to the hotel where he lived. When he returned to the hotel, it was already 7 o'clock in the evening. He didn't know that a monitor had been silently installed in the hotel room, monitoring him without blind spots. In a suite in the hotel, there were 3 people. 2 men and 1 woman. They were carefully observing Lin Yi's every move on the screen. From Lin Yi's facial expressions and movements, he observed and analyzed them layer by layer, and he was holding a pen and paper in his hand, writing something bit by bit. When Lin Yi entered the room, he felt something wrong at the first time, and this wrongness came from the premonition in his heart. Although his past power was gone, only his true destiny was left. But this omen from biological instinct did not disappear. Frowning, he thought to himself, what's going on? Why do I feel like someone is staring at me? A human-skinned woman? Could she still stare at me? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt a little nervous, and the light of the true destiny solution in his eyes continued to flash, looking around. Under the true destiny solution, nothing can be hidden, and he found the hidden camera at a glance. But he remained calm, casually observed the room, and then lay down on the bed, his mind falling into deep thought. It should be the surveillance of that mysterious organization, or they are worried about my existence, which is understandable. Ignore them for now, let's see what power can be used on Blue Star first. His true destiny still exists, and the speed of his mind's calculation has not disappeared either. Through his powerful mind, he can directly simulate the current physical condition and external information. When he first descended, when he used the true destiny solution, all the structures on this blue planet had been mastered by him. This is a completely physical world, and there should not be any supernatural power forms. Even his mental calculation ability can only operate within the scope of his true destiny. He was looking for a system that could be used to enhance his own strength on this blue planet. In this world, even dead energy does not exist, and even light is just a particle. The energy usually referred to is just a particle state. The spirit cannot affect these particles, and countless power systems flashed through his mind. After comparison, he still deduced a cultivation method that is completely suitable for the blue planet. But this cultivation method has a limit, that is, the limit of human physical structure. Similar to the early stage of the Daolai martial arts system, the strength of the body is cultivated. Cultivating to the limit is the perfect control of one's own body, and the muscles and bones are all strong to the physical limit. The ultimate powerful body. Produce a biological magnetic field. Through the mutual interference of the magnetic field and the external magnetic field, the power of the external magnetic field is used to use the appearance of inhuman power. Or directly use one's own magnetic field to interfere with the magnetic field of other lives, and the interfered person will die, or block perception, etc. At this point, the human body has reached its limit and cannot be stronger. This is the nature of this blue planet. It is impossible to have a power that exceeds physical limitations. In the words of martial arts, the road is broken and there is no way to go further. However, there is a mysterious phenomenon of human skin grandmother in this world. There are also people with true destiny, who should represent the deeper secrets and power of this world. Although this method has been deduced, it is not so easy to complete it. He deduced the power system through his mind, which also consumed a lot of spiritual waves. Although his mind still has the computing power comparable to that of a supercomputer or even a quantum computer. But the more data is calculated, the more spiritual waves are consumed, and the computing power cannot be infinitely improved. The upper limit of the spiritual wave limits all my power, including my calculation ability. My foundation and reserves will never be lower than any real person. If even I have to be subject to such a large restriction, then other real people and sub-real people who may come to Blue Star should not be an exception. The power system can use the true life source to directly strengthen the body. But considering the true life consumption in this world, the body must be changed step by step, which will take at least 3 months. Money is also a big problem. On Blue Star, money can solve many problems. I have to find a way to make money. Otherwise, relying solely on the true life source to make gold for reselling can only make a little money, and it is impossible to accumulate wealth quickly. My calculation ability will be the best tool to quickly accumulate my first pot of gold. Stocks are a good direction. With my learning ability and knowledge of the financial system, I can fully master it in a few days at most. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1168. The latest chapter of the Wanchai Wu I Created is updated the fastest. The rest is to calculate and integrate the laws of the stock market. However, there is a limit to the amount of money you can make in the stock market. Once it exceeds a certain number, it will definitely be noticed. At that time, those who stick to it may also notice something wrong. I always feel a little troublesome. It's a bad start. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a trace of solemnity. Thinking of this, he sighed heavily, then calmed down and began to follow his plan. 1 month passed in a blink of an eye. During this period, Lin Yi was completely immersed in learning. All the financial knowledge of Blue Star was carefully studied by him, and with the strength of his mind, he deeply understood this knowledge. Even all the stocks in the stock market have been studied by him, and all the data over the years are in his mind. He quickly understood whether there was human manipulation behind the ups and downs of these stocks. A model was built to let him know clearly when to buy and when to sell. After making all preparations, he went to the securities company to open an account. At the same time, he deposited 100,000 yuan and bought a controlled stock. After that, another month passed. By constantly selling low and selling high, his funds increased from 100,000 yuan to 10 million yuan. This is a 100-fold difference. After having this money, he stopped operating. Because this is already the limit, if he continues, it will attract attention. In these 2 months, in addition to using the power of the mind to learn and make money, he also did one thing, that is, constantly transforming his body bit by bit through the true life source. Let the structure of the body become the structure in his deduction. What he lacked was only the hard conditions of the body, and the realm of the mind level was far beyond the deduced martial arts system. After 2 months of continuous transformation, 3 days ago, he finally completely transformed his body and entered the peak state. At this time, he had moved into the presidential suite and lived a life of food and clothes. Holding an iron ball in his hand, his 5 fingers exerted a little force, and the iron ball quickly dented under the huge force. 5 deep fingerprints appeared on the iron ball, which was the physical limit of the body. His body had undergone secondary development, growing from 1.75 meters to 1.85 meters. The bones of the body had become stronger, and the muscles were also very perfect. Every muscle was very tough, and biologically, it was almost the toughest muscle tissue structure. This body had reached the physical limit. His body was filled with a faint magnetic field, and the iron ball in his hand also had its own magnetic field. At this time, under Lin Yi's intentional control, the body's magnetic field began to affect the magnetic field of the iron ball, causing the magnetic field of the iron ball to become chaotic. The chaos of the magnetic field also caused problems in the connection between iron atoms. The combination between metal atoms and atoms is formed by the overlap of metal bonds. Each metal atom has its own magnetic field, although their magnetic fields are very small. But after the metal bonds are connected, they will become a whole substance and magnetic field. Lin Yi disrupted the stability of the magnetic field, causing the metal bonds to break, and finally turned the magnetic field into the original single atomic magnetic field. Under the power of his magnetic field, all the magnetic fields inside the iron ball have completely collapsed. The iron ball has all turned into atoms, like a pile of iron sand, leaking out of his hand. This scene made him smile faintly. As long as he uses the power he controls well, basically there is nothing in this world that cannot be broken or destroyed. Just disrupt the magnetic field structure, and the complete object will naturally collapse. After 2 months of dormancy, the eyes that originally monitored him have disappeared. He really does not pose any threat, and has not made any threatening behavior. The mysterious organization finally gave up monitoring him helplessly. The money is there, and the power has been perfected, so we can start the investigation next. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. He has never forgotten the human skin grandma incident. It was like a thorn in his heart, firmly piercing his heart. After all, he died so easily once, without even the room to fight back or the opportunity to resist. He has never experienced such a thing, and only suffered such a death once at the dark side gate. In the past 2 months, he had never searched for unknown events such as the human skin grandmother on the internet. After all, someone has been monitoring him. As long as he conducts an investigation, the other party will know immediately. He has bought a new mobile phone, which costs more than 15,000, a very luxurious Xuanhuan mobile phone. Then, he began to search for his target through the mobile phone. His target is those mysterious events that happened in the city. Various urban legends and mysterious legends appeared on the web page. He is observing and memorizing them one by one. Many urban legends are said to be serious, but after his analysis, he will find some loopholes in them. Seeing through these loopholes can eliminate all false information. A day passed in a blink of an eye. Lin Yi finally found the complete version of the information about the human skin grandmother in the search of urban ghost stories. The content of the story is very thrilling. The first time the human skin grandmother appeared, it seemed to be in a village in Furong City. Whenever she appeared, the victim would receive information from the human skin grandmother in various ways. For example, mobile phone news, TV news, news broadcasts, or newspapers. And the victims were at home or in a closed room. The information they received would indicate that the human skin grandmother appeared nearby. Then, there would always be a sudden knock on the door in the closed space where these people were, and the person knocking on the door would say that he was someone. Once the owner opened the door, the human skin grandmother would be standing outside the door. If the victim's eyes saw the human skin grandmother's face, he would be attacked by the human skin grandmother. If he realized the problem in advance and did not look at the human skin grandmother's face, he would not be attacked. At this time, the human skin grandmother would simulate various sounds to shake the victim's heart. Once the victim could not stand this kind of shaking, he opened his eyes. He will see the human skin woman who has been waiting for him, and then he will be skinned by the human skin woman and finally die. The person who wrote this complete article seems to be a person who escaped the hunting of the human skin woman by chance, and his personal experience. The ID of this escapee is the lucky survivor, and the forum he is in is a forum called the Great World Ghost Story Club, which is very popular and seems to have millions of members. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1169. At the end of this article, the author left a sentence. The ghost story cannot be destroyed by violence. Only by following its rules and finding its flaws can it survive. Or dismantle the ghost story from its rule flaws, otherwise, all those who break the rules will die. No matter who it is, they can't reverse the whole conclusion. Looking at this detailed description and warning of the human skin grandmother, Lin Yi's eyes showed a thoughtful look. He felt that the human skin grandmother's ghost story incident did not seem to be as simple as he originally imagined. Can't violate the rules of ghost stories. If you violate them, you will die. Last time, I saw the face of the human-skinned woman, even if I used the true destiny and true destiny perseverance. Although I can be immune to the influence of this power for a while, as long as I leave the protection of the true destiny, I will be immediately affected by the power of the human-skinned woman. This power should be the rule he mentioned. This rule seems to be unbreakable. I was able to escape because I died once. According to the rules of the human-skinned woman, only death can escape its hunting. I followed its rules, so I survived in the end. As someone who has personally experienced the power of this rule, Lin Yi can confirm that what this article says is true after comparison and verification. Then the human-skinned woman may be my first investigation subject. From her, maybe I can find some secrets about the power of this world. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and had a goal in mind. But he still didn't stop looking for suspicious ghost stories on the internet. He is categorizing all this information, and maybe it will be useful in the future. In the past few days, Lin Yi has found thousands of different ghost stories. There are only about 37 that really make him feel that they may involve ghost stories. And these 37 events are basically distributed all over the country, and only a few are not divided by region. For example, there is a ghost story called 13 Steps. Legend has it that at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, a building with only 12 floors is found, and there are exactly 12 steps on the top floor. At the last 12 seconds of 12 o'clock, on the last step of the highest 12th floor, climb the stairs at a speed of 1 step per second. At midnight, you will reach the top of the 12th step of the 12th floor, where the 13th step will appear. And the hidden 13th floor, it seems to be an unknown world. Once you enter, you will disappear from this world forever. This is a very widely circulated ghost story. Although most people claim that they have tried it, it has no effect at all. But when Lin Yi observed various forums, he found some problems in the answers under these stories. Some people never appeared again after they responded that they wanted to try this strange story. Of course, most of them just didn't reply to this post. On their homepage, you can still see their replies to other posts. But among this small group, there are a few who have never appeared on the forum since that day, and have not replied to other posts. Even the last login time is the day they replied. From these phenomena, he can infer that even if not all of them, there must be a few people who really tried this strange story and then disappeared. All these signs are telling him one thing: this world is very complicated and contains huge unknown secrets. Judging from the knowledge he has acquired, the essence of this mysterious strange story must be a power that can rival the true destiny. After thinking about it, he already had a plan in his mind. First of all, it's the human skin grandma. The place where this incident occurred is mainly in Furong City. The most recent appearance was a month ago. It is said that someone saw the human skin grandma appear in the old city in the north of the city Helong Street. The first time the human-skinned woman appeared was 3 years ago, and basically there are always 3 or 4 sightings every year. And so far this year, there have been at least 6 sightings. Kaylan vaguely noticed that the number of times the human-skinned woman appeared was increasing. Does it mean that the more people this human-skinned woman kills, the greater the probability of her appearing? Lin Yi quickly took out a small notebook and began to record his analysis of the human-skinned woman one by one. First, he made an analysis of the detailed content of the description of the human-skinned woman, listed several key contents and divided them by time. Before the human-skinned woman appeared, people nearby would receive news about the human-skinned woman. Only when the human-skinned woman's face is seen directly will the human-skinned woman attack. Once the human-skinned woman's face is not seen, the other party will simulate various sounds to shake and interfere with the target until the other party opens his eyes and sees it. If you never look at the human-skinned woman, the human-skinned woman will leave after half an hour. If you see the human-skinned woman, you can only die to get rid of the shackles of the human-skinned woman's power. As the number of murders increases, the frequency of the human-skinned woman's appearance seems to be increasing. Looking at the 6 items of his analysis record, Lin Yi had questions in his mind. How should we eliminate the human-skinned granny? Violence. It seems that it cannot be killed? No, perhaps it should be said that they did not really try to kill the human-skinned granny with violence. If I use the true life solution to find its source of power, and then use the true life root to destroy its source of power, will it die? If it is assumed that it will not die, how can I eliminate this danger? He carefully examined the 6 pieces of information recorded in the notebook, and suddenly he had an idea. If the rules are irreversible, can the rules be used? Maybe it can be done, if she really follows the rules. He felt a little excited inexplicably, and there was always a premonition in his heart that the phenomenon of the human skin grandmother seemed to be very important to him. Thinking of this, he was thinking about something. On his computer, he opened a website called Furong City Urban Strange Talk. Then, start posting phishing. He quickly wrote a post, I know how to eliminate the human skin grandmother. If any of you encounter the human skin grandmother, you can tell me the location as soon as possible, and I will come to save you. After posting the post, Lin Yi returned to his hotel, and then he waited quietly. The appearance of the human skin grandmother was random and irregular, and all he could do was send messages to fish. If someone really encounters this, they will naturally come to ask for help. Soon, a large number of replies appeared on Lin Yi's phone. What can eliminate the human skin grandmother? Is this person bragging? The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1170. The latest chapter of the Wanchai Wu I Created is updated the fastest. Not necessarily, the op may really know how to eliminate the human skin grandmother legend. Zi Bulletin Yu, Strange Powers, Urban Legends, don't take it seriously. It's just for the sake of attracting attention. There are really urban legends in this world, I'm waiting for the results. Looking at these people's replies, Lin Yi's face was calm and he didn't care at all. These people are all helping him to stir up the heat. You need to charge a VIP and pin the post to the top page of the forum so that everyone who browses this website can see it. If someone really encounters it, the probability of seeing this post is also very high. Lin Yi is not worried that it will take a long time, because he has a true destiny of immortality. He can feel that even on Blue Star, his life is endless and will never run out. After charging a VIP, spending a little money, and pinning the post, Lin Yi began a boring life. Every day, in addition to enjoying a big meal, he would wander around, or look at his phone and browse videos and forums. He also thought about going back to his old business and opening another Wanchaiwa coffee shop in Furong City. It can kill time and commemorate the past. It's a pity that Brandy and the others can't wake up, nor can they live again on Blue Star. Otherwise, it would be much easier if they were there to take care of everything. These days, he looked at a small shop on the busiest street in the city center. The area of the small shop is about 40 square meters, and it is still possible to open a small coffee shop. He asked the agent and found that this 40 square meter shop would cost about 8 million yuan before others were willing to sell it. Lin Yi didn't bargain and bought it directly at a price of 8 million yuan. At the same time, he spent 500,000 yuan to find a decoration company and began to renovate the place. He himself was a hands-off boss, and only came to inspect every day to see the progress of the decoration company. Of course, he would check all the materials. If there was a problem, he would immediately find the person in charge of the decoration company and ask him to reorganize it. For example, at this time, Lin Yi was holding a piece of wood in his hand. Looking at the 30-year-old decoration manager in front of him, he said indifferently, "The agreement in our contract is very clear, it must be freshly cut solid wood flooring. You use popcorn wood, do you think I don't know it? According to the contract, as long as I find inferior materials, I have the right to claim 10 times. Do you want me to go to your company to claim compensation? This is the third time, and there is no more than 3 times, do you understand?" At this time, the decoration manager was sweating profusely, and he bowed his head and apologized. "Boss, I'm sorry, I didn't keep an eye on my subordinates when they were buying goods. There will definitely not be a next time." Lin Yi looked at him and smiled faintly, "I hope not, I am not afraid of lawsuits." With that, he walked out and left the store. The person in charge of the decoration had a gloomy face. He rushed to install the floor last night. It was to prevent Lin Yi from discovering that he used inferior materials. Unexpectedly, when Lin Yi came this morning, he directly dug a piece of floor from the ground, catching him off guard. This was the first time he had met such a serious person. This business is really troublesome. The profit is very low now. I can only do it honestly. This guy seems to know the materials very well. After that, he never dared to pass off inferior materials as good ones. All the materials were genuine and used for decoration. After teaching the person in charge of the decoration company a lesson, Lin Yi sat in the milk tea shop on this bustling street. Holding a cup of sweet milk tea in his hand, looking at the familiar flow of people on the street, the peace and leisure were full of the breath of life. He was very addicted to it, narrowed his eyes and smiled, "This may be the life I want to live. No need to go to work, leisurely, and do what you want every day. There is nothing better than this kind of life. If the seventh true destiny has not been deduced yet, I don't want to care about other things at all." At this moment, he suddenly received a private message on his mobile phone. He looked down and saw that it was a letter from the Furong City Urban Strange Talk app. He clicked it and saw a line of SOS. SOS, help me, boss, I received news about the appearance of the human skin grandmother. Ian's eyes lit up, "Where are you?" "I'm at number 37, Quanzai Street." Lin Yi was stunned when he heard this. He knew Quanzai Street. "It's very lively over there, maybe you're not the only one who received the news. But I'm giving you a warning, from now on, don't answer anyone who knocks on the door or calls your name. Also close your eyes, don't open them no matter what happens. Don't open them even if it's the end of the world, because the human skin grandmother may appear in front of you at any time. I'll be there in 10 minutes. After sending a series of texts, Lin Yi stood up from his seat. Putting down the milk tea in his hand, he walked out of the store and stopped a taxi directly. Number 17, Quanzai Street, hurry up. The driver nodded when he heard this, "Okay, sit tight." The driver stepped on the accelerator and the taxi flew out. Lin Yi sat in the passenger seat, looking into the distance calmly with a hint of thought in his eyes. I hope I can make it. As long as this guy does what I say, there shouldn't be any big problems. At this time, a private message appeared on the phone screen again. But this time it was not text, but audio. Someone is knocking on the door. It should be my mother. Should I open the door? I have my eyes closed now. Lin Yi picked up the phone, turned on the voice, and said slowly, "Remember what I told you. No matter what happens, don't pay attention to it." "I know, but I'm so scared. Your mother should be at work at this time." "My mother said she came back to get something and asked me to open the door quickly." "Don't believe it, just pretend nothing happened." "Okay, okay." The driver next to him looked at Lin Yi with a strange look on his face. "What are you talking about?" Lin Yi looked at the curious driver and smiled and said, "We are talking about an urban legend called the human skin woman. Now, this man has encountered the human skin woman. As long as he opens his eyes, he will see the human skin woman in front of him. Then he will be stripped naked by the human skin woman and die on the spot." The driver was stunned when he heard Lin Yi's words. The whole face became a little unnatural. Guest, you are joking." Looking at the driver's embarrassed expression, Lin Yi suddenly smiled. "Of course I'm joking, how can there be such a thing in the world?" "Right." Looking at the smile on Lin Yi's face, the driver always felt that something was wrong, and an inexplicable fear rose from the bottom of his heart.